our personal brands are everything. I mean, it's beyond a business card. It's a personal brand, and everybody does need to build it and then curate it. So that's the scary part for young people, is that kids have to mind how they do and how they think, because it's forever.
Hello there, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Orthopreneurs Podcast. Today, coming from her amazing lodge, is Dr. Susan Podray. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Glenn. Appreciate it. I'm happy to be here with you.
Yeah, when I first saw her on camera, I said, wow, are you like at a vacation resort? And I was like, it's absolutely gorgeous. Where are you right now? What part of Georgia?
Well, so we live in North Georgia on Lake Lanier in Cumming. Forsyth County. So it's really beautiful, and at the mountains, really. It's
gorgeous. Just out of curiosity, how hot is it today where you are?
I feel like, well, in the sun, it's, probably feels like 85. But there's nice breezes, like kind of mountain breeze. Not really too high humidity. For me, it's a perfect pool day.
Here in Dallas, I think it's 99 today. Oh. I think it said it feels like 101. So I would take your beautiful mountain lodge any day of the week. But I'm so excited to talk to you because for those who don't know, and you'll learn in the next however long it takes, across the screen from me is a dyed-in-the-wool entrepreneur. We have somebody who really understands or can commiserate with me about what it's like to want to start something, to want to build something, to want to grow something. And it's wonderful. And we'll get into that. But why don't we start with you telling everybody a little bit about how did you become an orthodontist and sort of your journey a little bit up until now. And we'll dive into the details in a little bit.
Sure. Well, so I grew up in Florida, South Florida, in Boynton Beach. My father was an orthodontist and my mother was a chiropractor. Actually, I used to work with my dad in middle school. I was working in his lab making retainers and study models, learning how to soap them and make them shiny, all that stuff. And then in high school, I had the pleasure to work as his sterilization tech, records tech, and a chairside assistant. I got to really know what the orthodontic office environment felt like. And then, of course, a great glimpse in what we can do for people. Went through dental school, all the process that we all do. And I actually really enjoyed, dentistry at a dental school. I got my first job in Philadelphia as a general dentist, thought that I could maybe do a bit of both. But the business of general dentistry is very different than orthodontics. And, your patient base, their needs, tend to be, very emergent and sometimes not trusting. So the aspect of being a general practitioner is quite difficult.
Oh yeah.
After that, I did decide that going back for orthodontic specialty would be great for my happiness and lifestyle. And was excited to get into Temple and just complete my residency. From there, when I was in residency, my dad did sell his practice. It was something that, he needed to do. And we would never have worked together, actually. My brother's an orthodontist too. And though we all have that in common and can certainly, talk about all kinds of things around the dinner table. All of our personalities are different enough that, we all are, went into different directions. Nice. Out of residency, I was recruited to come to Georgia, actually. I would have gone anywhere because home is where the heart is. So,
nice. Like me.
Yeah. I mean, I had thought about North Dakota, Arkansas. I would have gone to Alaska. For me, any kind of adventure would have been fantastic. But when we got here to Georgia, what an amazing place to raise a family. I mean, I think you can see just behind me how beautiful it is.
Yeah.
And it's not cold and it's not hot. Really cool season all year. So this was a great place to kind of raise the family. And with that, start my de novo lifestyles, which I know is what you want to get into.
Yeah, that's awesome. We have a lot in common, you and me, right? The general dentistry side of it. Those people who came straight out of school into ortho, I think what they miss, is the answer to the question I get a lot, which is why would you leave general dentistry after 20 years to go into ortho? And one of the things that I think people forget is that every person who walks into an ortho office knows what we do, is expecting what we present, and comes willingly, which is huge, huge. Like as a general dentist, people come in because they have to, not because they want to. They don't know what's really going to happen because they came in for a cleaning and they left with knowing they have 5 cavities that need to be filled. So they weren't kind of prepared for that. And selling, quote unquote, selling treatment is so much more difficult to somebody who didn't come in expecting it. And I think living in that world, even for a short period of time, really changes the way you, would you agree with that? The way you present care to patients?
I mean, hands down, you're selling the unseen, and, you're doing it really to care for the patient. I feel like, the margins of general dentistry, I mean, unless it's specialty work, really aren't great. So the doctor who's doing that bread and butter, fillings or really trying to even do that, that occlusal on that second molar or gosh, or like, it's really, really hard work with really low reimbursement rates. And so it's not always appreciated fully either.
I agree.
So it's a harder.
It's definitely harder. And if you think about the general dentist out there who's getting a patient back, getting them numb, maybe placing a dam or not, doing an occlusal filling that has deep decay, one surface, getting reimbursed after, $75 or $110 after it's all $150. Like, I know. I'm so
it's
thankful to be an orthodontist most of the time. But I will tell you, I was in someone's office, a general dentist not long ago, and they were doing a favor for my team. And while they were doing it, they had a patient out of the room, and they're like, they had prepped 4 or 5 veneer preps. And I was like, do you mind if I go unpack the cord real quick? And they're like, no, not at all. And I sat down and I packed it. I was like, oh, I love this. I love this so much. And right now, like any orthodontist out there listening, like their hair is bristling. Like it made me so happy to pack cord. Like I so miss that part of it at times. But I totally know where you're coming from. And so, like, again, the other things we have in common, I lived in New York and Seattle and Florida and, practiced. And so it's interesting to be in other places and see different cultures and get a different feel for each city because they're each unique. And my dad was a dentist and I went into dentistry, and ultimately, I left my dad's practice to go do my own thing like you did. And I think, would you agree with me when I say that when people hear you say my dad was an orthodontist, like all of a sudden it's almost like a defensive mechanism needs to come out to sort of like explain why you're not practicing with them, or that like it wasn't like given to you. Like people have this like expectation, oh, my dad was a dentist, or my dad was an orthodontist, or my mom was an orthodontist. Oh, they must have it easy, right? Like, oh, it's right. Do you ever get that sense?
I mean, for sure people do. And, I feel like they're automatically thinking that someone is doing it, for you.
Right.
But really the biggest takeaway that I had, and I hope that, I know orthopreneurs does spread to people, is that they can do it. And I saw really in all aspects of, owning businesses from my family members, not just my parents, but my aunts and uncles. And so I feel like that's the part that, people need is really just that, you can do it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm going to ask you the tough question now because, I could answer it myself, but I want to hear your answer. You saw your father run an ortho practice, so you kind of went into it with your eyes open a little bit. You've seen your brother, right, run an ortho practice. I will tell you, when I came out of dental school and started practicing, the actual practice of dentistry was radically different than what I thought it was, even though I'd seen it from a different set of eyes going into it. But what would you say is the biggest difference that you bring to your ortho day-to-day life versus, say, what your dad does?
Well, my dad, he was kind of old school, so it was very B2B, referral based, right. And so, people, were coming essentially off of that trust relationship. In a lot of ways that was an easier way to practice. Gosh, before the internet and social media and, and just massive spends, that DSOs have and some of the business dynamics now, it was more cottage industry than I feel like what it is now to kind of make it happen. So if anything, that was the biggest difference that going in, I didn't necessarily fully expect. I mean, I didn't do any social media until just before graduating residency, in part because I knew I needed some sort of, presence.
Yeah.
People do look for it. So I feel like that's maybe a big change.
B2B versus B2C.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Now we're B2C.
Consumer as opposed, and for those out there who don't know the terms, B2B, B2C, B2B means, basically business to business, right? And B2C is like business to consumer. And so the shift from going from dentist and dentist and dentist referring to you versus going straight to the consumer, it's a big shift there. But you mentioned social media and residency. One piece of advice I'd offer any young orthodontist listening, particularly a resident, particularly a dental student, I would start my social media presence in high school or college and build it around, not something stupid, but around like getting followers. If you come out of residency with thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, and I see that for you applying to a position in my office, that's going to go a lot further than somebody who says, oh, I really don't have a social media presence, right? Would you agree with that?
I mean, our personal brands are everything. I mean, it's beyond a business card. It's a personal brand, and everybody does need to build it and then curate it. So that's the scary part for young people is that, kids, have to mind, how they do and how they think, because it's forever.
Yeah.
But then, yes, I mean, all my patients have thousands and thousands of followers. I mean, they're, some of them I've got on billboards, but that's how they connect now too. It's, very different than, for us, it was Dunbar's number. I mean, we could connect with 100 people, 150 people, but these kids, have these light relationships, and really you do too. You're quite good at that. But with thousands of people, it's a big shift.
Yeah, and it's not forever, as you'll see from all of our peers who don't really give their full name out on their Facebook or Instagram, right? Like, if your name is like Susan Johnson, suddenly it's Sue Jones, right? Like suddenly,
yes,
or your middle name, like, Sue Cindy, right? So nobody could ever find out who you were. And when I was in ortho residency, there were so many undergrads that I knew who'd come up, who suddenly, when I graduated, I couldn't find them because suddenly they were now doctors and they changed their names, and like, that's not fooling anybody. We can dig you up. It's kind of fun to see how that happens. But it is important because my daughter, who's 22 now, working in Manhattan, like I've always said to her, make sure you build that brand, make sure that you build towards a future goal of not who you are now, but who do you want to be, right? Like,
definitely.
Like Wayne Gretzky didn't skate to the puck where it was, he skated to where it was gonna be. And that's what made him so great. And I'll tell you a little secret that very few people know. You ready?
Oh yeah.
I'll only whisper it to you.
Okay.
I like the way you sauntered up. The only reason Orthopreneurs started was because of a course by Gary Vaynerchuk that said, develop your personal brand. Now, I'd been on social media my first time on AOL, it doesn't count as social media, but my first time on AOL was probably back in 92-ish, 90, 92. And I got on Facebook years and years ago. But I didn't really ever think of it in terms of building that brand, if you will. And then one day I was sort of like, you remember Ortho 101, and they had like a toxic culture. There was a lot of fighting and I didn't like that. I said, I really want to create a place where people can enjoy each other more and be more positive. And so I was just searching around, and on Udemy.com, which has some great courses, there was like a $29 course by Gary Vaynerchuk on how to build a personal brand in 2016. And I started doing it. And halfway through it, I was like, I have to start Orthopreneurs. Like, we've got to start Orthopreneurs. And if it wasn't for that course, I probably never would have started Orthopreneurs. So it's funny how you talk about a personal brand, because that's what ultimately got us to where we are today with Orthopreneurs. And I still follow him. I'm going to see him in July.
Wow.
We're recording this in June, but I'll be seeing him in July to go draw upon some of his wisdom again, because I think he's remarkable. And by the way, I tried to get him for Summit like 4 years ago for the first Summit, and he was like $100,000 an hour back then.
Oh my God.
So,
wow.
And that's the funny part to everybody listening right now. I want to tell you something. When you tell me you want Jocko or Gary or Grant Cardone or any of these people, okay, I just want to let you know, I've looked into it. They start at like $150,000 for a keynote. And unless you want Summit to be like $4,500 per ticket, I'm just warning everybody now. So, what's your dog's name, by the way? Because those who are watching get to see your beautiful dog.
Oh, sorry. His name is Finn. Yeah.
His name is Finn?
Yeah, Mr. Finn. Like, yeah, Star Wars, like Finn.
I have a Mr. Finn.
Yeah.
My 3-year-old is Finn. My 3-year-old Labradoodle is Mr. Finn.
How cute. Love it.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about your practices now. So,
okay.
You and I share something else in common other than a Finn and a parent who is, we have so much in common, which I didn't even know about until today. We also are both partners in Smile Doctors, right? Which is an amazing thing. We both have multiple practices when we went in. I'm happy to give my 10-second plug of how happy I've been as a member, the autonomy I've been given, the ability to sort of shape my future and really, really, really elevate my clinical game in so many ways because of the opportunities they've afforded. What's your 10-second plug on how's your experience been with Smile Doctors?
I mean, I really couldn't be happier. They are an incredible partner, investing so much into the practice and into the people that I feel like it's light years. But every DSO, every OSO is very different. If you've met one, you've only met one. For me, Smile Doctors has long-term plans, and it's look, it's to the moon. So we're in the right place, and I love being of one tribe. Yeah.
Just like Dogecoin. But you did touch on something really interesting there, because I get a lot of messages, and I always tell everybody out there, if you ever have a question about DSOs or OSOs or Smile Doctors in particular, you can always reach out to me. You can always reach out to Susan. I know she's more than happy to answer questions. But the one thing I always tell people is, if it seems too good to be true, it might be, because there are instances of some OSO, DSOs, offering one thing in a letter of intent and then changing it later on. And I can guarantee you Smile Doctors doesn't do that. What you get in your LOI is what you're going to get when you close. And number two, just make sure that that you look at a few places, that there's no one right answer, but what's life like for the orthodontists and the dentists who join? And I tell everybody, please do your due diligence. Don't rely on one person's word, whether it's me or Susan or any number of people out there. Definitely ask that OSO or DSO, can I speak to 5 doctors who've joined you that are my size? If you're doing $2 million a year, it doesn't help you if you're a single location, $2 million a year practice, if you talk to somebody who's doing 15 million with 8 locations, or 5 million on 3 locations, or 1 location with 7 million. You want to be able to talk to somebody who has a similar journey that you had. And if they can't provide that, that's a little bit of a red flag. Would you agree with that?
I would. It's, and it's also about, like everybody needs to know their why, like, and even, why we do what we do, any of it. That's a big part of it. And so the partner is everything post, but, it's a journey, and it's one that I'm super happy to be on for sure.
Yeah, same here. And I'm glad to be your partner. And what's really interesting is a lot of people focus on the money, like that's money. And no, it's not about the money. Yeah, it's about the money. But the most important part, in my opinion, is that once you're done, you're going to sign a contract for 3 to 5, 7 years. You'd better be happy. And so the onboarding and what happens after the fact, if I told you, look, I'm going to pay you 15% less, but every day you're going to wake up and be thrilled and happy and want to go to work, versus I'll pay you 15% more, and for the next 3 to 5 years, you're not going to enjoy your path, or you're going to be constrained. These are the questions you have to ask yourself as you move through the OSO, DSO world. So again, I'm always here to help make it easier if anybody has questions. Of course, I'm an advocate for Smile Doctors, but there's been probably over 50% of the people who come to me, I tell them, Smile Doctors isn't for you because of X, Y, or Z, but here's some good resources for you to help you along your path. And so you joined Smile Doctors last year, like we did. Talk a little bit about, you started a de novo when you first started, and Serenity Orthodontics, right?
Yes.
Ended up partnering when you had 6 practices, correct? And
At 5, we just did the 6th.
Oh, you just
Yeah, with Smile Docs, but it wasn't a de novo, the 6th one.
nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So, and again, every one of us who joins anything has to sign an NDA, and I don't want you to obviously ever come close to overcoming that. But
Right.
at some point, are you able to talk at all about what it was like bringing on another practice while you were already partnered with Smile Doctors? Because I guarantee you right now, that's blowing the mind of people who are listening to you saying, wait a minute, how did you possibly start a new practice when you were already a partner with an OSO, right? Like, that doesn't make sense to a lot of people out there. Are you at liberty to be able to talk about any of that? About
I feel like it's just a personal branding thing, and everybody's so with Smile Docs, everybody's deal is going to be, a bit different,
right.
for sure. So I feel like, if you really had specific questions for your own, life and practice, that would go to the development team.
Right.
And of course your peers, people talking to you, Glenn, or me, or some other, people in the organization. But it is a very different mindset that I think that Smile Doctors has, for growth. And I know you see it just even with the tech and the investments and just, how they are.
Oh, yeah. It's been huge. We're so much more efficient today. My practice is so much more efficient today than it was 7, 8 months ago when we partnered, in terms of technology, in terms of their investment in the practice, that and never telling us once that we have to speed things up or get worse care or tell us how to practice. But, from remote monitoring to, how much aligners I can do in my practice if I want to other technologies, their investment has been tremendous for us.
And I feel like, just like any business, big or small, it's the people, this OSO is no different. It's the people who are in it. And to be around, people who don't need to be humble, that everything, there is no ego in, I think in the communications and how we all work together. And so I feel like, me with the 6 practices, I don't think that would necessarily be anything, exclusive to me or Podray or Serenity. I feel like that's, circumstantial on the partner and then of course the practice that may fall under, a new partner, kind of deal, but the growth opportunities are there. So for me, if I have a message to share, it would be that partnering with an OSO like Smile Doctors is not, to hamper your growth opportunity. It's to enhance the way a partnership can, and in part with OPM or other people's money, right? Deep pockets will help this, kind of growth to the moon. And I know I know we were going to maybe touch on recessions and things of that nature later, but, that these are, cash flow, is so important. And, every partner, won't necessarily, they look for different things. There are some OSOs or DSOs that are looking for that retiring doctor. They're looking for, certain EBITDAs and to kind of do a flip. And, everybody's business model is so different, that these are all things that, you have to know it either aligns with you and your own personal values or it doesn't.
Exactly.
But for me, it does. So.
Yeah, well said. Yeah. And again, the people in the group are important to me too. You get some great people like yourself, and it was really wonderful to join. And I want to go back now to your first practice. So, tell us a little bit about how the first practice came to be, right? And when it was, and where it was.
So it was actually here in Cumming. We actually bought a commercial real estate building in 2013, and then we opened up the first Serenity in 2014. So essentially 8 years old. It was a minute from my house, and it was right as the economy, I think, was picking back up. Really from the real estate downturn, that had really affected people 2008, 2009, 2010. So for me, timing really couldn't be better. We had good offerings in a very competitive area. So in that office, I have 20 orthodontic specialists in a 5-mile radius from us. So we weren't, meeting the communities, there was no unmet need for the community. We were simply, offering a different value proposition. best care, best value, I think is really where we shined in growing our brand. And, once you start one, you start to understand more and more about the importance of scale. And I think particularly as a de novo, for you to, keep excellent staff members, excellent staff members need not just great pay, they need great hours, and that everyone's got to be focused on their own niche. So if you are cross training the front and the back and the back person's never going to answer the phones right and never going to be able to do a TC work or whatever. I mean, you really have to get at least everyone wearing, a certain hat on the bus. And, when you're brand new startup, that's a big challenge, to do. And so we did it.
Can I interrupt just for a second there?
Please.
Because one of the conversations you and I have had is about, okay, you're a new resident, you're coming out of school, you got two choices. Let's assume we're narrowing it down. Start your own practice or take one from, buy an existing practice. Which one would you choose? Because you're talking about how tough a de novo is. And you'll hear so many people out there who just flippantly say, don't buy somebody else's garbage. Just start your own and get it there in 2 years. And why would you want to pay $1 million or $2 million for a practice when you can build your own and not take on the debt and be there in 2 years? But we've both, again, what we have in common is we've both started at least a couple of de novos. And you said it right. It's tough. You got two choices right now. You are Susan Podray, 26-year-old ortho resident graduating, and you're coming to Cumming, Georgia, and you've got a choice. De novo,
buy a practice.
Like you didn't let me finish the sentence. You're buying a practice. So the argument that people make is there aren't a lot of practices for sale, right? There aren't, in part because DSOs are getting a lot of the bigger practices, and B, a lot of the older doctors are hanging on and, quote unquote, as my friend says, perfectly, riding their dinosaurs into extinction. So why do you, if it's available, why would you suggest to somebody to buy an existing practice versus starting their own?
Like any business, it's about the people. We're not, it's not our widgets. It's the people. And so if you start off with some people that you can build a community around, that will help you for success. That will, you will be able to hopefully treat everyone super great, bend over backwards. Who cares if you're, they don't owe a thing to the practice. Who cares? It's about the Google review. It's about the community. And who cares about debt? Debt is just a number, and and money's, with inflation, it's not worth anything. So for me, it's cash flow.
Money's not worth anything.
Like my house is where, like, I can't even tell you like this, how much value it went up, and just
value.
Yes, exactly my point. So for me, I hands down would tell somebody to buy a practice. Even a couple of, care and staff members still get you going, gets you that cash flow, and then you can retrain and hire and figure it out and buy a second one easier, do a merger. There's a billion ways to be in business. Now my way was great, but it was tied to real estate. So many of my practices, we own the commercial real estate.
Which is
my husband. Yeah. And my husband knows real estate very, very well. We're actually real estate investors. A lot of people in my family also, we have a lot of ties with real estate. And so that's a different angle. And one definitely, that can benefit so many orthopreneurs. But, a single doctor can't do everything. So you do have to have that support, and everybody's support system does look different. Some people have robust help with their staffs. With their husbands, wives, spouses.
Is that how you refer to your husband as hubby? He's my team member.
It's like,
I love that.
A
little Freudian slip there was great. I love that. It's perfect. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. And the thing about real estate is that right now we're in, I hate the word unprecedented, because the word unprecedented has been used at an unprecedented rate over the last 2-3 years. But right now we're in unprecedented, unusual times, one-off times where, I was sitting with a guy the other day who I met at a meeting I was at, who's a 30-time World Trading Championship winner. He represented the U.S. in these international competitions where they would sit you in a room with a computer and go, okay, you've got 8 hours. You're starting with X amount of dollars. Everybody go. And you could trade real estate. You could trade, I wouldn't do real estate in 8 hours, but you could trade stocks, bonds, warrants, options, whatever you want to do, crypto. And there are other conferences where they'll say you got an hour and a half to trade options. Go. You got 2 hours to trade stocks, mutual, like, and so he's won it 30 times, which is remarkable.
Wow.
So we were talking, and I said to him, by the way, he has a quantitative analysis program that he promotes that allows you to take the gambling out of as much gambling as you can out of buying stocks and mutual funds, what have you. And so we were talking about it, and he said using quantitative analysis turns you into a casino, not a gambler, right? The odds are in your favor. And so I'm trying to get him to white label it so we can use it in ortho for orthodontists who want to draw on this. So I'm going to try playing with it for a few months and see what happens. Just a little teaser out there. But he did talk about real estate. I said, "Oh, I'm buying some real estate right now." And he sort of looked at me and shook his head. I said, No, commercial real estate. He goes, "Oh, okay." And it seems like commercial real estate is the one place that nobody will tell you don't get involved, right? Commercial real estate is one of those areas that everybody says, if you have the opportunity to get involved in commercial real estate, take it. Jump in, do it, because, over 6 months or a year and a half, things can go up or down. But over a 5-year, 10-year, 15, 20-year period, commercial real estate creates cash flow. It has tax advantages, legal advantages to where you can do exchanges, take the money into another project.
Yes.
It literally, it's too much for us to get into here, obviously. But the takeaway from your conversation about real estate is, if you have the option to buy your building, orthodontists, buy your building almost always.
Definitely.
This is not financial advice. I'm just telling you, speak to your financial advisor. But if you have the opportunity to get commercial real estate, get commercial real estate. It just, makes perfect sense.
Completed. It's, the advantages are innumerable.
Ooh,
yeah. But, people need,
well,
I don't know.
like that.
Everybody does need their own, financial education. I'm a big fan of Robert Kiyosaki.
Poor dad.
Yes. Yes. But I feel like there's, lots of, real teachers out there. And people do need to seek that out, because it's not, are you nobody can answer, are you a good investor? It really is right back at you. Are you a good investor? Are you a good business owner? Are you a good orthodontist?
Right.
This is, in part, personal and based on your actions. So.
Yeah, it's really a great place to consider looking into, particularly if your other buckets are getting filled with other kinds of investments. It's a great way to round out your strategy, or so I've been told. And so, it's just remarkable. Hey, everybody, if you are not registered for the Orthopreneur Summit yet, what are you waiting for? Everybody who's attended has told me it's the best meeting, not ortho meeting, best meeting they've ever been to. You want to relax. You want to deal with the issues in your practice by talking to other people over dinner, because every drop of food is included. Every drink is included. Every drop of entertainment is included. From the moment you show up, you are my guest to help you bring your practice to the next level. So go to opsummit2022.com. I guarantee you right here and now, as I always have, that this will be the best meeting you've ever been to. And if it isn't, you just come and let me know at the meeting. I will put you in a limo and pay for it and send you to the airport and pay for your flight home. Nobody's ever taken me up on it, because this will be the best meeting you've ever been to. If you don't believe me, go ask your friends. Wishing you a great day. Go to opsummit2022.com. Hope to see you there. I'm a fan of de novos. Why? Because you're going to work your tail off with a de novo. Don't think just because this is not you, Susan. I know everybody out there. You can hear this. If you buy an existing practice, it's not like you just buy it and you're home at 5 o'clock every day and life is great. You're going to work your tail off with a de novo or with an existing. What Susan's saying is, you have the advantage of using the momentum of the practice, and the number of potential missionaries that are out there to talk about you is much greater. The de novo, the advantage in today's day and age, one of the few advantages, obviously, Ashley Kissling, who I got on the show a few weeks ago, I think her podcast dropped recently. She went from 0 to 7 figures in 1 year using TikTok, right?
In California, she sounded good.
Yeah, she had a very specific, driven model. and she became an influencer and she speaks for brands. I mean, she's really done it the right way. And if you can do a de novo that way and grow it that way, it's a wonderful way to go because, again, you're going B2C. And the other advantage is you can craft your business the way you want it to be with no luggage, right? No baggage. So if you say, look, I'm going to be an all-aligner practice and I'm going to get one assistant. You know, Bob Skopek, who I had on a few weeks ago from Chicago area, he cut his team in half. He's now down to 2 assistants. And his practice is bigger than it ever has been because he's automated a la Heather Hopkins, right? He's automated the practice. He's been huge aligners. And it doesn't mean you have to suffer in quality, but I would go the other side of the coin. If you're ready to embrace automation, social media, and you want to build your practice, your dreams, de novo has a lot of advantages as well as a lot less startup costs as well, right? So there's both. Here you've got 2 people, both entrepreneurs, both really driven to build the best practices they can. And again, given the choice between buying a practice or de novo, you know, in the right area, I like de novos. She likes, you know, but she's also started 6 or 5. She's burnt out with de novos. I'm telling you that right now. You can see her laughing, you know, she's totally burnt out with de novos. But if you go to the right area with the right strategy, a de novo can be golden, and you can be in the black making money.
Yes.
Really, you'll be day one with a buying one. You're in the black from day one, hopefully. But you can be in the black, living a good living within 12 months if you run it the right way. And
yes.
you built 5 de novos, right? And you have 1 that you acquired. Over what time period was there a rhyme or reason about how you were starting your de novos? Was it, you know, this year I'm going to do 1, next year I'm going to do another, year after that I'm going to do another? How did you determine when it was time to start the next one?
So, you know, the 2 and 3 were also based on real estate. Then of course, you get to know people. Then 4, Brazelton, that one, we knew the people from office 3, got into that office very easily. That one we paid rent. But the build out was done gorgeous in a growing area. You know, you just get to know people. Then we did 5, actually started off as a dental practice. Pre-COVID, we bought a dentist and his practice and the building he was in, you know, which was like a 4-suite building. Then we did do, you know, 1031. You had hinted at, you know, how you deal with moving money within real estate and that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so we did
by the
move
way,
things.
For those out there who don't know, because she said it like really offhandedly to me, like, oh yeah, a 1031. A 1031 is a specific way that you get to use the value of your of the business, of the building, to, as it's appreciated, to take money out. And to be able to do that, if I'm not mistaken, not a financial advisor, tax-free, right?
Yeah, yes. You do have to know when you're moving money, and it's like to like, you know, investments. So there's definitely rules. And I am not a tax expert, but tax experts certainly have helped us out, you know, and continue to do so. So definitely that is, it's worth your investment to make sure that you are, you know, around a good team. And that is your, you know, that's your CPAs, your advisors, your, you know, attorneys, all of it. That is very helpful stuff. But yeah, so after that, the COVID did hit kind of, just after that. I think I told you I signed a lease, March 3rd of 2020, and then everyone shut down 2 weeks later. And that was into a Trader Joe's Plaza. So after we sold that building, we were intending to move that practice, anyway, but we did not move it, into dental. We carved out dental. The margins of general dentistry are not the same as ortho. And as you know, some dentists, if you are a rock star dentist, you can definitely kill it, you know, and have those connections and just, you know, do your amazing thing with your people. You know, but, you know, ortho, we have our own charm, and the scalability is, better, and more, you know, just more worth the time and effort for me to, continue to invest in. And so that was that, but it did start off as a real estate thing. And so that was 5. Yeah. And then 6, of course, with my partners, with Smile Doctors.
Yeah. It's amazing. And so You did all this with your kids.
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah, well, I mean, I have. Well, the newest thing is with the kids. That's that bricks and boards.
Right. I was going to get there in a second.
Okay.
How many kids do you have, and how old are they?
So I have two kids, two boys, 13, Zachary. He's so smart.
Zachary. Are you sure we're not married? Because I have a dog named Finn and a son named Zachary. And I'm convinced at the end of this episode that I'm actually married to Susan, but we're just so busy we never see each other.
I mean, I would take on multiple husbands, so I know, not that I'm a polygamist, but
staff members.
Yes.
You're just looking for more staff members. That's all it is.
Always room to grow.
So, but Zachary is 13.
Yes, and then Kyle 10.
So you have two kids. And again,
2 boys.
I'm sitting here just in awe of you, having, over the time period you did it, you had two kids at a really tough age, right? They weren't babies that you just put them in a bassinet, they're not 16, 17, 18 years old where they become relatively self-sufficient in many respects. You get kids at a time where they really need you and you really need them. And you built 5 practices, partnered with the OSO, took on real estate transactions, and now started another business. What was the secret here? And I know the answer isn't super hard work. There has to be a support system or something in place.
Yes.
To make it happen. What advice would you give to anybody out there who may be struggling with this?
Well, there's no right timing to do, anything, whether it's, starting a business, starting a family. I feel like some of these things that, aren't planned for, and that's part of the beauty of our life's journey, is kind of doing it all. And then trusting people around you, to help you. I mean, we hired au pairs when our kids were young, and they were great. They were essentially live-in help from other countries. A few of our girls came from China, so both my kids have some Chinese fluency, and then Spanish too. We've got our kids in dual immersion schools, so they speak better Spanish than I do. So I feel like there's, we do rely on help. I mean, I didn't make it to every school function. I didn't know every school teacher's name. I feel like those are sometimes trade-offs, depending on where you're at in your business model. I mean, we all have the same hours, minutes, seconds in a day. All of us are equal into our time, which is our only true commodity. And so, you just try to make sure that the time that you have with somebody is present and impactful. And that's, with your family, with your team, with your many spouses and staff members, however it goes.
But it's about balance. It's about balance. And, the one thing I hear a lot more today than 30 years ago when I started, partly because of social media and people are connected so much, is, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do that, or I feel guilty about doing this, or I feel guilty about doing that. And at the end of the day, it's about balance, right? If I've met orthodontists say, I could never go to a CE course. I've got kids. I can't go to a CE course. And I say, that's just as out of balance, in my opinion, as somebody who says, I have somebody watch my kids every weekend when I go to CE. I do it 45 times a year and I go to 45 courses and somebody watches my kids when I go to CE. I think there's a balance that has to be struck in the middle there. And most importantly, I can't be the one to give permission, but I think we need to give ourselves permission that it's okay. Like it's okay. Your children are going to grow up great. Your practice is going to do wonderfully. Your family life is going to be great. Just stay in balance and things will work themselves out. Would you disagree with that?
No, I mean, there, to a certain extent, I think balance is a fallacy, but you have to know your why and kind of plan, what to do that is important, to work towards, right? These goals that you need to work towards, the 3-month, 6-month, year goals, 5-year goals, 10-year goals, and then I think that you have to, carve out the unimportant, and for me, sometimes that's, if the homeroom mom is doing a good job with the teacher's gifts, it's easier to write the check,
Exactly.
So it's just kind of know, what you can do and then what you can't with the
Yeah.
time that you have.
And I do
Yeah.
think that moms do sit in a different position. And I had a great interview with Shira Tor last week that's going to drop soon. It hasn't come out yet, where we talk about the whole concept of mom and mom guilt and the whole, because there is a reality to it, which again, I once said a mother was going on and on in Orthopreneurs about mom guilt. And I said, well, what about dad guilt? Like, I'm the sole breadwinner for my family. My
Right.
wife is at every event. I don't get to be there at any events,
Right.
right? And she comes home and tells me, and she said, "No, that doesn't exist. There's no such thing as dad guilt." I'm like, okay, but there is a truth to the fact that Shira said when the kids are sick and they want mommy, they don't want necessarily dad, they want mommy, and there's some truth to that, and it's tougher. And I just look at what you've accomplished, and it blows me away. It's remarkable, and you have a fin, which is wonderful. So,
Yeah.
and most importantly, the part I want to start getting to as we start running out of time is now you've got a new business that you've actually involved your kids in. And
Yes.
I think it's valuable for everybody out there to consider the idea of having a side business, whatever it may be. You can have your kids in your business. That's great. Have them in the practice, let them see what it's
Definitely.
like, soap some models. Like you did, Susan, which 30
Yes.
years from
Yes.
now, people
Yes.
are going to like be watching this and
Right.
like, what's a model? Why would you
Right.
soap a model?
Right.
And I think that'll be like in 3 years. Talk a little bit about what the new business is and how it got started and why it got started. And we can dive in from there.
Yeah. Well, we bought this amazing commercial building in essentially an out parcel of a outdoor mall in Dawsonville. So the location was amazing. You do to get inside deals like what we do. You already have to kind of be doing it, but it was like an insider deal. And it was great. Obviously, with my, you probably did mention that I'm a little burnt out of startups. I wasn't going to ask my new Smile Doctors partners if we should do another startup in that building. So instead, we are doing a family business called Bricks and Boards, which is a game and hobby store, essentially. My son, Zach, has worked on the POS system, the point of sale system. We're using Square. He's learning all that stuff. He actually bought a claw machine. He calls it his Scamatron 9000. and he loves, checking the dollar bills out of it and, stocking it and kind of running it. And so he's been there, really working with his dad. And then my little one, Kyle, has curated the snacks. He probably eats as many as he sells, but
he's curated what?
He's curated all the snacks. So the snacks, and the inventory of the snacks and the sodas and stuff. That's him. Almost like my little convenience store kid.
Nice.
Yeah. So we've been able to involve them.
So what is the store? Because it's got a claw and it's got snacks. So as far as I'm concerned, you got enough for me. If I can eat snacks while playing with the claw machine, I'll pump dollar bills in there all day long. But what else does it have?
Well, so we have, so the Bricks is an ode to Lego. So about half the store is like vintage and collectible Lego. And so if you are an adult fan of Lego, we definitely have things that will interest you or family members. And the second half of the store is really board games, RPGs, card games like Magic and Pokemon.
RPGs are not rocket propelled grenades for those out there who are wondering. They're role-playing games.
Yes. Yeah. And we built out side rooms and tables and things where people can kind of come and gather in a community sense and and hang out. So it's
the way it used to be.
Face to face, ideally. Without all these electronics. But yeah.
Right. If I want my child to have less electronics time, they can go there after school instead of, if you've got a kid who, like my son, Zachary, is a self-described indoor kid. He talks about himself not being an outdoor boy. He's on the spectrum. Right. But he was, I tried to play, I was a coach of his flag football team. I tried to teach him baseball, hockey. He just didn't like sports. He hates sports. And so for kids like that, they need a place where they can go. But Lego, I've got a box here. He's 18 now, legitimately 50,000 pieces of Lego. He could build anything with Lego. in 5 seconds. And he wants to go into some sort of CAD CAM design, probably as a
Right.
function of his Lego and his Minecraft, right? All he was doing, because Minecraft is nothing more than an online Lego. I mean, that's what it really is. And so kids come and play and can buy, I assume, right?
Yep.
And at some point it'll be online. So everybody listening can eventually, do you have a URL yet?
I think we do. Yeah. I think it's just bricksandboardsplus.com.
Bricks and Boards Plus.
Bricks and boards. Yeah.
Bricksandboards.com or plus?
I think it's plus.com. Bricksandboardsplus.com. Yes.
Right on. There you go. Bricksandboardsplus.com. It may not have anything on there right now, but it will down the road. I know it's not all sunshine and giggles. What's some of the hardest things about starting a business with family members, with kids? Or has it been just perfect the whole way through?
No, this one's pretty great. I mean, if anything, because it's brand new, my husband's still spending a lot of time. We did bring in a friend from Florida that we've known for 20 years. So he's actually our manager. And side by side, him and my husband have essentially been staffing the store. If anything, it's still a lot of time, like personal time on my husband now, where it used to be me with Serenity. Now he's over there, still like getting things up and running. I mean, there's like any new business, there's still lead times out on some of our construction work. Like we have this stone wall being put in, but we have to wait for the stone to come in before they can come in and finish. So there's still some things undone. That probably will be done in the next month. And then
nice.
I think then easy street. But as far as the kids go, they love it. They have so much fun running the register and talking and playing. They really have a great, great time.
You're giving them such a great value and a great lesson in the value of money, how business runs. So no matter what they go into, they're going to have the ability to understand what a transaction is all about and sales. Maybe someone's on the fence about that role player game. Maybe that Magic the Gathering thing or Pokemon or whatever it might be. They're like, well, I'm not so sure. And your son can sit there and talk to them about the pros and the cons. And basically, I mean, there's some value in that. And kudos to you for getting them into that.
Oh yeah. I'd like my kids to get into distribution. So we got to learn the business. And then that's where scale can, so we'll see where this goes, but this is their business for sure.
Nice. And, when we first started talking about bricks and boards, ages ago, when you first started telling me about it, I told you, oh, Magic. And you're like, oh, you're a huge Magic the Gathering. I'm like, well, I'm not a player so much as that I'm an investor, because what's really interesting is that I have a good friend. I'm going to see if I can get him on the podcast at some point, who got me turned on to both collectible cards years ago and video games, like classic, we're talking, rated video games. WADA, for those out there who don't know WADA, it's a ratings organization, but like Super Mario Brothers, Donkey Kong, Punch Out, stuff like there have been Magic cards. Like if you have a Black Lotus 10, there's only a couple of them in the world, you're selling them for $1 million. Yes, that's right, people. A Magic the Gathering card for $1 million. And before you sit there and go, well, who would ever pay that kind of money? It's no different than the Jackson Pollock that someone would pay $10 million for. It is unique. It's no different than the NFT someone paid $10 million for. And I'll leave it with this. I do think it's worthwhile, and maybe I'll have a conversation at one of the summits about this from somebody who does this a lot. Maybe I'll get my friend on stage to talk about it. But we're in a position as orthodontists where I heard at MKS, probably, 4 or 5 years ago, I don't know if you were there, where the two guys got on about real estate in Nova Scotia, I think it was. And they talked about how we're never going to be wealthy per se, like from orthodontics. I think we'll all do quite fine, but you're never going to have a private jet from orthodontics. But you can certainly make a good enough income to make investments to where you can get there if you're smart. Commercial real estate is one way, right? It may not happen in a year or two. But my friend who's a general dentist who does all this investing said, look, the more income streams you have as you get older, the better it is for you. And collectible cards just go up and up and up and up. And collectible games only go up and up and up and up. And the numbers of what's going on out there is absolutely ridiculous. And so I encourage everybody to look into it. Do you sell any collectible stuff or do you sell new?
No, that collectibles. So obviously, some of the stuff we do sell is new, but the focus on the particular the Legos are collectibles.
There you go.
Yeah,
I would tell people definitely talk to Susan about it if you're looking at this kind of stuff, because there is value in a lot of the things that are going up in price. And you might say, well, it's pure speculation, and it is. But here's what I will tell you. I heard a great interview about a decade ago from a Silicon Valley exec who probably was in his early 40s at the time, who had said that the social capital of my generation, like people like myself, Gen Xers and probably older than Gen X, was that you'd see your friend's dad driving a really fancy car. And you go, God, that's a cool car. He's pretty cool. One day I'm going to own a car like that. Or you'd see them at a country club and you go, God, that's a cool country club. He's pretty cool for belonging there. One day I want to belong to a country club. Or the big house. And then all of a sudden the millennials came along and the whole rules changed. And social capital became much more about experiences. It was much more about, oh, he's at Burning Man. That looks really cool. One day I'm going to go to Burning Man. Oh, he's in Ibiza. One day I'm going to go to Ibiza. Like, it wasn't about the big house necessarily. It wasn't about the fancy car. It was more about the experiences. And one of the things that really resonates with a lot of millennials is things like, and Gen Z, is the Legos and the Magic cards and the Pokemon, or early Pokemon, because as they make their money in life, they're not necessarily going to buy the big fancy house. They're not necessarily going to join the country club. They want to invest back in things that bring them the memories, which were Pokemon and Magic and Lego and all those sorts of things. And that's how it was explained to me. And I said, it was like all of a sudden, like, boom, it just made perfect sense that, that copy of Super Mario Brothers, which recently went for $2 million, went for a reason, because, or 1.5 million, because it brought back memories to somebody who had enough money to be able to buy it. And instead of buying artwork that hangs on their walls from an artist who means nothing to them whatsoever, they don't care about Van Gogh or Picasso. They want to spend $20 million on Pokemon cards, And I don't know if you have the same feeling about that.
No, I mean, there are people who come in. I mean, it's exactly for essentially that fix, or that looking to kind of, they call it crack a pack. I don't know, it's a thing.
Oh yeah.
And I, and a thing online, people are looking for, that rarity, and they love it. And, it's a thing.
And crack a pack, just so you people know what she's talking. I'm going to be the Susan translator today. What happens is, just like anybody who collected baseball cards like I did when I was younger, when you buy a pack of cards, it can have anything in it. And so it's like, it's kind of in a very funny way. It's like a Schrodinger's cat, right? It really is like Schrodinger's cat. The cat is both dead and alive until you have that famous experiment. In the pack of cards, you could have the most valuable card in that pack, or it could be full of nothings. So there's an inherent value to the pack of cards until you open it. Once you open it and you crack a pack, so to speak, which people do if it's a really valuable pack of cards, and you open it on camera and live stream it, you could have tens of thousands of people watching you, and millions of, like, for instance, you ready? I'm going to flex here a little bit, Susan, okay?
Okay.
I own a Magic Alpha starter pack, right?
Yes.
Yeah, you hear her voice, folks? So an Alpha starter pack is, like, of all the packs in collectible cards, is arguably one of the most valuable packs of cards out there. And they've sold for 6 figures, and they're going up. And every now and then you'll see somebody do it on screen because they're hoping to pull that Black Lotus that's worth $500,000, $600,000, $800,000. They're hoping to pull a card that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. So they'll crack a pack on camera and everybody's watching. And ultimately, every time they open up a pack of cards, there's one less pack of Alpha starters out there, because they haven't been made since 95, right? 95?
Yeah.
I think it is.
I'd have to Google it real quick, but I'm sure you're right.
So every time they open one, there's one less Alpha starter pack or beta, box or whatever it might be. There's one less. So the value of every Alpha starter pack just went up, not down. And that's why it's really amazing. Look into this. If a guy like me can learn about Magic the Gathering cards, right? and artist proofs and things like that. There's some great places out there to consider looking into, right?
Definitely.
So before we finish up, I just want to say, I know you like playing games. What's your favorite game?
I actually like Settlers of Catan. That's my
Oh my,
go-to.
I'm going to become one of your staff members, okay? Because I love Settlers, especially, especially if there's 3 people. Once you get into the expansion pack, it's nowhere near as fun, I think.
I love them. I think they're all
You
fun.
love expansion packs?
I have a blast with it.
Well, we're total geeks here. Sorry, everybody. But yeah, once you get an expansion pack, it just takes so long. And the game can go on for days because everybody's like screwing everybody else over. But I do know one thing you want to do is spearfish.
I do. Yes. So for me, that's like, I always want to focus on learning something new. I love snorkeling and I love scuba diving. I now, know, like when I was younger, I don't think I could really, cause any kind of animal pain.
But now,
but now
I go out of my way to cause pain to animals.
Sometimes. So,
Yeah. You're
but I would very much enjoy, that, and, even the lionfish, I'm always inspired by Roy King, and his lineup of lionfish. I feel like, that would be a lot of fun for me now.
So, Doug, my partner, when we were at school in South Florida for our ortho residency, he would go out and spearfish with a whole bunch of people. And don't do it the way he did it, because growing up on the ocean myself my whole life, I would warn him he was going to get killed. He was going to get eaten, because nothing is more dangerous than I'm going to check off all the boxes on how to get killed by a bull shark. He would go at night in the dark with a flashlight by the mouth of a river. And like, it really, like, that's where bull sharks, like classic, like full moon nights, like, but he loves spearfishing. Right. And I have no doubt that he'd be happy to teach you. And if there's anybody out there listening who is a spearfish person, in nice water, I'm not talking Montauk, okay, everybody? I grew up on Montauk. I'm not, she needs to see a fish. Reach out to her and let her know, because I know she would love to learn how to spearfish. And so
I definitely would.
Yeah, I really appreciate you being on here. You really have an entrepreneur's heart, and you've also got a very giving heart. And I'm just thrilled to have you as a partner with me and Smile Doctors, and looking forward to hopefully having you speak on the Orthopreneurs Summit stage, maybe in 23 would be great.
For sure.
Because I think we've got some really good stuff to talk about. And just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here today.
Thank you, Glenn. And I am excited to see you at the GAO in February. Yeah. And I hope everyone can make it. It's not just for the Georgia Association of Orthodontists members, but for us, we've definitely been able to open it for everybody. So if anyone wants to come and hang out with you, me, and all of our amazing speakers, we will definitely have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was remiss. I apologize. We'll take one more second. Susan is very involved in the Georgia Association of Orthodontics. Reached out to me and asked if I would speak there. I said, absolutely, no questions asked. I'm happy to do it. I always love helping out in any way I can. And it's going to be a great time to get together. And it's going to be held at Lake
Oconee. That's in February at the Reynolds property at the Ritz-Carlton. So it's a gorgeous property. You can golf, you can, skeet shoot, swim, fish, whatever you want. It's super fun.
Or chill and play Settlers.
Yes, I would love to do that. And I'll bring some expansions, because we'll have people that hang out with us.
Yeah,
so,
we'll have the first 60-person Settlers game. You could, good luck rolling.
That's a tournament.
Okay, you can't have a Settlers tournament. It'll take way too long at a GAO. But if people were interested in learning more about it, because you don't have to be just a GAO member, anybody can go to it, right?
Exactly.
Where would they go to sign up?
So just go to the Georgia Association of Orthodontists website, and then there's 2 meetings. There's one at the Braves game in August 19th. And so I feel like we do still have some seats if people want to join us. I've got 2 rooms, Kervin Mack, Dan Bills, Brian Lockhart, Chris Krager, Priya, Pretty Baga, and Scott Schwartz. and that's August, and then of course February is you, Scott Frey, Matt Wang, Jared. I'm going to mess up his last name. Jared Quintero.
Yeah, from he does
Bakersfield, California.
Yeah, he's really good at some of the stuff. He shows some really great cases. We had him.
He does.
He spoke for our RD group. He did a private webinar for us, and his stuff is great. I hear he plays a mean
fantastic.
guitar too.
Oh my God, he is so talented.
Yeah.
So we'll be having some parties in case y'all want to come and join.
I'm down. I'll be there. So thank you again from the bottom of my heart for doing this. I know we all appreciate you, and I just look forward to seeing you so many more times in the future.
Absolutely, Glenn. Thanks.